Good morning. It is a little bit after 9 UTC here on Tuesday, the 20th of January, doing a little bit of a Bitcoin market update as usual. So data for this week is coming in pretty good for the dollar. We've got new home sales hitting 698, much higher than expected. Today, we've got some durable goods, nothing too crazy. It'll hit about an hour before the market opens, and then consumer confidence about half an hour after the New York market opens. The big eyes are still on tomorrow with the FOMC interest rate decision, the federal interest rate decision. So they're not expected. The forecast is still they're not going to be lowering rates. So we'll see how that affects the market. It'd be wonderful if they started cutting again, but we'll see. And then Thursday, Friday, obviously, GDP and core PC and stuff like that. Going on a Bitcoin, specifically long short. So we had a nice little recovery, relatively strong recovery on Bitcoin, given the big wipeout of the TradFi markets. With actually shorts coming in pretty aggressively into this upside move, it's still a majority long market. So yeah, there's still punishment to be had to the downside if that's the case. However, we are regaining key levels and there's a nice pocket of liquidity above us. On the funding rate side, funding rates are coming back in relatively neutral, slightly bearish. Big outlier for me is BitMEX actually flipping neutral to slightly negative, where they were in the whole downside move at 0.01, which is their standard. So this is actually surprisingly bullish to come up and test stuff to the upside. Liquidation size, yeah, we've got some really good liquidations sitting right above the weekend structure. So right above, say you call it like 107, even at like 106, it's starting to look pretty attractive. That being said, the downside is not confirmed to be over with because we did technically break trends. So we want to get over that weekend price action to really confirm this is a deviation of the downside. Because right now, the stuff below us right at 97.3, sweeping the lows that we did yesterday, all the way down about 94.5 looks really attractive liquidity wise, with some larger blocking orders to hold stuff down at near 91k. So we're not 100% out of the woods yet, but it's doing a nice recovery, just watching for potential local failures to drive us back down into those lows to grab that liquidity. Looking over at the resting orders, tons of resting orders still down there, and I think that this might act as liquidity. If we start rejecting and starting to lose some local levels, going to be interesting if we start getting back below, say 1013, that little hip gain that we did earlier. So that would be kind of a trigger to potentially start targeting a new low. Not that it's the end of the world. We've tested all of the underside structure already, which is good. We've technically gained back the current weekly open on a high time frame as well. So it still looks good. We can invalidate that gain really quickly. We've had a pretty strong drive to the upside since midday yesterday, and it's probably overdue for a little bit of retracement on the lower time frame. And then finally, looking at the combined order book, a really big blocking order right here, 1033 on the short side. So lots of localized sell pressure, just big orders holding us down in the order book, with the bigger stuff below us at, like I said, 97.4, 97.5. And then below that, we start getting to like the 91K to 90K zone to potentially have major hold of level. So that still looks good. Just remember, we are not out of the woods yet with that whole downside move. Looking over the chart, nothing's really changed other than we've made some significant gains back of level. One thing that sticks out is, we had the move up, really nice bullish engulfing 4 hour, came back, tested it, can still run back to the lows without breaking it, but it's tested now. The next level up is at 99.7. That's untested 4 hour. And we've done really strong, really clean regains, previous weekly open, and even the current weekly open. So it's looking locally quite good, quite attractive. We've retested all of the underside structure we needed to test. The only things left to really do are come back up, and potentially if we get back up into the zone, I think there's a good chance we sweep it and go into that really big pocket of local short liquidity from the weekend all the way up to the local high. Now, I personally would rather us do the lows now, because my expectation is that if we go run the high move now, we'll get instantly rejected and come down and make a new major low. But for the time being, it still looks strong. Kind of expecting some lower time frame kind of crabbiness grind out with the nice level down here at, what is it, 99.7 to 98.7. So this is still a pretty big hold of a level, but the expectation is the moment if we do start breaking back down and losing the structure, creating some local lower highs and lower lows, we should see retests at 96.5, sure, but I'm much more interested in targeting 94.5 down into this kind of like very high time frame level. 94.5 is also like the weekly level to hold. It's the daily level to hold. It's a lot. It's a very high time frame level, and it includes a retest of the yearly open. So locally, like I said, it still looks good. We're getting some nice sell pressure. People, retail trying to short this upside move so far. Let's see if they're a little bit giving up if we start losing some local levels. On the lower time frame, yeah, it looks fine. We're gaining stuff back pretty aggressively, gaining back wicks, gaining back structure. I'm probably pretty interested in, like what I said before, 1013, this low right here. If we do start to lose that, as we are kind of rejecting the local high structure, any loss of this should force a retest down lower. And then any new lows, obviously, we're continuing that breakdown. It looks like they're allowing this as a way to build that kind of liquidity of longs locally to help continue the push back lower since we dumped so hard already. But like I said, the recovery back has been good. We're technically trending back up. But the macro is we want to see major regains of 105 and some new highs. But for the time being, yep, we're a little bit overbought. We're seeing some localized rejection. We're still holding the weekly. If we start losing the weekly, we can still come right back towards that 1013. But any loss of this definitely has to be a driving force to go much lower. Until that happens, you're still looking for a step off until you lose the previous weekly. That loss would probably give a high confirmation of a local failure. But that's that. And I guess a little final thing, it seems kind of like the DeepSeek AI thing might have been a big fugazi in the sense that it was a big play. I recommend everyone to take a little bit of a deep dive into the hedge fund that owns it, High Flyer. From the little I've read about it, High Flyer that owns DeepSeek, they've done they shorted the COVID market really badly and lost quite a bit of money. And this is something out of their playbook, something like this to shake out, Chinese backed, shake out $1 trillion out of the US market, and all the heavy shorts get paid, hundreds of billions in that downside move. So just keep an eye on it. We'll see what happens next coming days, but I don't think there's any real evidence that the macro AI bubble has basically popped. So that's it. Take it easy. Catch you tomorrow.